Earlier this year, I made a video on why everyone hates Shaco, who's considered by many to be unequivocally one of the least enjoyed champions in the history of League, even in spite of all the 200 years of collective game design experience we've had to deal with. Being a competitive title, and therefore making you face off against characters just as often as you get to play them, it's natural and somewhat expected for players to develop animosity towards champions, some more than others. But rarely is one ever unanimously hated, mostly because you seldom have to directly play against them or deal with them on your team at every waking moment. Which makes it all the more embarrassing when there still happens to be unanimously hated champions, one of which being Tahm Kench. Released back in mid-season 5, Tahm Kench has only ever been zealously despised or non-existent, a perpetual limbo state between two unfavorable outcomes despite having received, I believe, 2 gameplay updates. I don't think there's ever been a single moment where Tahm has been viewed in a neutral to positive way. Even after multiple attempts to get him into a decent position, he still also suffers from a critical gameplay issue that drives people away from playing him too. At first I had half a mind to make him the next candidate of everything wrong with, but then I thought to myself it would be a lot more fun to frame him in this video format, so without further ado, today I'll be talking about why
I hate Tahm Kench. Preach! Preach!
Sky, I miss 2016 Sky. First things first, before we dive into it, I want to make sure that everyone has something yummy to eat while you watch this, since as you know, I am everyone's favorite lunch break League of Legends YouTuber, so to help you out with that, let me present to you HelloFresh, which is back to sponsor my channel once again. You guys know the drill at this point. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal prep catering service that delivers fresh handmade meals right to your door, with over 45 weekly recipes to choose from that take as short as 15 minutes to prepare. Holiday season is just around the corner, so if you want to celebrate without breaking your kitchen apart, then try out their new themed menu items. Along with 45 recipes, they also have 100 curated picks from the HelloFresh market. Ingredients travel from farm to door, so it's as fresh as can be. More than just dinners, HelloFresh provides you with all sorts of items for breakfast, lunch, or snacks as well, so you can have entire batches of meals prepped for you for the entire day. Looking through the website, you can browse each menu from week to week and choose what you're interested in. Every dish comes with a list of ingredients as well as an estimated time frame for how long they take to make. They have a ton of new recipes in celebration for the upcoming holiday season, so now's a good time to see what they have. If you're interested in trying some hassle-free delicious meals this month, be sure to use the QR code on screen or my link in the description, and you get 1 free breakfast item per box while the subscription is active, which means you can get this indefinitely. Thanks again to HelloFresh as always for sponsoring the video, but for now back to Tahm Kench. Anyways, Tahm Kench was introduced as an addition to the lesser explored and frankly appreciated Warden subclass. Unlike their offensive counterpart, the Vanguards, Wardens are more focused on holding the line rather than advancing it, equipped with tools intended to stave off enemy pressure. In the right circumstances, Wardens can be absolutely game-changing as they come with disruption and protection tools that you can't really find anywhere else. For example, Rom's Unbreakable and Stand Behind Me can let him serve as a human shield for his AD carry while giving everyone on his team a theoretical stun with concussive blows. Shen's legendary Stand United, coupled with Spirit Refuge, can grant him so much defensive utility and bulk for his team that the mere threat of him ulting in to join the fight is enough to deter enemies from recklessly engaging unless they're absolutely certain they have the firepower to burst you down. Season 5 through 7 was also a very experimental time in League's history. Riot was just throwing random ideas out and hoping they would stick. Some did really well like Bard, Rek'Sai, Jhin and whatnot, while others missed the mark like Aurelion Sol, Talia, and our very boy Tahm Kench. With every champion revolving around a gimmick of sorts, Tahm was and still is a very unique one, though interestingly not an uncommon one. His whole shtick is that he can swallow units into his belly, friend or foe, before spitting them back out. On release, when using Devour against baddies, he would suppress them and then spit them back out for massive damage. Alternatively, he could swallow a minion or small monster and use them as a projectile. When using Devour on friendlies, he would courier them a short distance while rendering them completely safe from any outside interaction, so in a way, he turned anyone into Yuumi for a couple seconds. The mechanic of covering for and transporting allies and whatnot is commonplace in other video games, especially turn-based strategy ones where movement and map position matters a lot. And though the Warden class excels at protecting their team, Tahm was the first to do so in a very literal sense by making it so the enemy team physically could not touch whoever was in his stomach. It was an interesting take on the concept, but it caused a lot of issues. Amidst the however many defensive supports and champions we have in this game, the reason none of them explicitly shield their teammate from direct harm is because of the implications of such an action in League. While there are intrinsic factors that limit a character's uptime such as attack speed or cooldowns, one champion has the potential to do a ton of damage in a fight, literally. Therefore, allowing them to stay alive when they should very much be dead under any other circumstances is a pretty serious thing. This brings us to the first reason everyone hates, or at least hated, Tahm Kench back in the day. He cheats. No matter how many shields, heals, buffs, whatever someone gives to another person, there's only so much they can do to alleviate a bad situation. You can have a Janna support, Ivern jungle, and Orianna mid dropping every shield they can on Vayne, but if that Vayne has the collective intelligence of Twitter, there's nothing you can do to save her. That's the counterplay. Supportive abilities can only mitigate a threat, not eliminate it. Tahm Kench bypassed this law, and was really the only champion who could bypass it. Devour allowed him to instantly remove a teammate from a fight no matter how bad of a situation they were in, and move them around however he pleased for 4 to 6 seconds. Not only that, but at the beginning he actually gained movement speed when swallowing an ally, doubled when moving towards enemy champions, so he could safely transport someone to or from a fight. Or sometimes he could even W them just to stall for time. 6 seconds is an extremely long time, that's twice the duration of a Morgana binding. What's worse is that since it was activated on his end, he could devour a teammate even if they were hard crowd controlled. Every 10 seconds, yes, at one point Tahm could do this every 10 seconds. He could essentially give any champion on his team upwards of 3000 bonus health being his own health and let them face tank just about everything in the game. All while, if they were under the effects of any debuff or crowd control, he would cleanse it from them while they sat comfortably in his stomach. While Tahm Kench was on the enemy team, engaging was simply just not viable. Even if, hypothetically, you engage both his teammate and him, preventing him from running away, burning all your damage and abilities on him would just greenlight his teammate to rip you to shreds as soon as they game out. Shen's stand United is balanced by the fact that even if he gives a 1000 HP shield to his teammate, if they're squishy, they can still get one-shotted 3 times over, whereas Tahm usually has 3 or 4 times that amount of health and is also likely building tank stats. I don't care how much DPS you have on your team, you can't break through Tahm Kench in a few seconds, especially not when he has thick skin, storing a portion of all damage taken which he can then turn into a shield for effectively double the amount of health. In a manner of speaking, Tahm Kench was a shield turned into a champion. He could superimpose his current health, armor, and magic resist onto whoever he devours for 4 to 6 seconds. At least for Thresh's Dark Passage, you can prevent his ally from clicking the lantern by stunning, rooting, or simply just body blocking, but with Tahm Kench, he could just nope anyone out of a fight, reposition, or simply stall for time, then spit them back out, a walking QSS and Zonya's hourglass basically. That's only half the reason why people hate him. Though he had indisputably the best peel by leaps and bounds, he still needs to be able to fend for himself, and for some inexplicable reason, Riot decided he should not only be able to fend for himself, but destroy anyone in a one-on-one fight. Tahm Kench has to be the most emblematic lane bully in the entire game. Lane bullies get increased early game and lane pressure at the expense of a weaker late game. That is Tahm Kench personified. Back when his W and ultimate were switched, Devour allowed him to swallow and suppress enemy champions with 3 stacks of acquired taste for up to 3 seconds, being able to move around a tiny bit during this time. Upon spitting them back out, he dealt, and I'm not kidding, 32% max health damage at rank 5. 32%. Bear in mind, at rank 5 this was also on a 10-second cooldown, although you needed 3 stacks of acquired taste, but this gave Tahm a ridiculously dangerous trade combo where he just had to auto you 3 times, press W, spit you out, then walk away and do the combo over again. Speaking of his Q, Tongue Lash is a long-range attack that deals damage, heavily slows the target for 2 seconds, and if they have 3 stacks on them, they get stunned for 1.5. That's how it is now, but before, the slow and stun used to be longer. To add insult to injury, prior to late Season 9, Tongue Lash didn't consume the passive stacks, so he could stun you with Q, then walk up and devour you in the same rotation. In a contest of traits, no one was better than Tahm Kench. Not Renekton, not Riven, not Darius, not Mordekaiser, no one. Why? Because of thick skin. Any damage he took, he would recover a portion of it just by sitting back and waiting. Or he could activate thick skin to basically have the amount of damage you did. And if you were crazy enough to hard engage on him, you had to somehow kill him twice, since he could just wait until he drops to low HP, then cast thick skin and get a full HP shield right away. It was the ultimate combo of damage, sustain, durability, poke, and trading. All thanks to the fact that on top of doing friggin' 32% max health damage with every W, he would deal bonus damage on his basic attacks and Tongue Lash by building health. In top lane you couldn't poke him because he would regenerate it back. You couldn't trade against him since he would win, you couldn't all-in him since he would win, and you couldn't even pick the ranged top laner against him since Tongue Lash. Down in bot lane you couldn't engage on his ADC since he would just scoop them up and run, and if you tried to attack him he would once again either regenerate a good chunk of it by walking away or use thick skin to make himself nigh unkillable. It was the most frustrating experience of all time. What kept him balanced? Simple, that he does nothing else. It's a known secret that Tahm Kench, specifically top lane Tahm Kench, is only to win lane. Once you reach mid game and start 5v5ing, Tahm doesn't really do a whole lot given that everything in his kit is single target. He's basically a giant walking ball of tank stats who can do no more than auto, Q, and W every so often. Even old Mundo was a bigger threat than him. So he was only picked to cheese lane and then proceed to be one of the most useless champions in the game unless he had like 5 kills by 20 minutes. As a support, it was sort of the same thing. Though Tahm could rescue an ally with Devour, he realistically couldn't do anything else otherwise. All he could do was attack and maybe try stunning someone with Q, while most of the tank supports could do way more than he could. He was extremely popular in pro play thanks to Abyssal Voyage, allowing him a semi-global teleport that could bring one other person along for the ride, which from a macro perspective is incredibly broken if you think about it. But outside of that, he was just so useless in the mid to late game, and he had to be if they wanted to keep him quote-unquote balanced. So he was kept in this perpetual state of being extremely annoying to fight offensively and extremely annoying to fight defensively, yet at the same time feeling like he doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, in pro play, he was a menace. Being able to rescue someone from certain death at the press of a button to buy time for even 1 second is amazing, let alone 6 seconds. Tahm's balance history underscores just how strong a mechanic is that you can nerf everything else about them and they can still be broken. It's reminiscent to Shen Syndrome champions, for those of you who watched that video, only instead of an ultimate, it was his W. For years, they tried a myriad of ways to nerf a supportive utility in excessive bulk, with thick skin being slammed over and over, then Devour losing tons of its utilities such as a longer cooldown when used for friendlies, no longer getting movement speed. Eventually they made it so Tahm was grounded and slowed even when swallowing a friendly, along with changing the max health damage to a flat amount to pull support Tahm back a bit, who did way too much damage for a support. Again, 32% max health is kind of ridiculous. Guess what? None of that made any difference in making people not dislike a champion who had 5 times more effective health than everyone else in the game. Yes, I understand the irony of that statement given we have Sion now, and had a winning matchup against even other lane bullies. Meanwhile in the mid game, even though most would agree that he's useless beyond belief, the presence of his W removes all interactions from the game. And if you remember what I said back in the Shaco video about how any champion who discourages interaction is badly designed, Tahm Kench is one of them. Eventually, the balance team grew wise to the fact that removing someone from the game is just too powerful a mechanic to be used liberally, especially when combined with this oppressively one-sided nature. You can almost think of it like Tahm Kench being useless, but he also made someone else useless with him. In solo lane, you essentially weren't allowed to play the game for 20 minutes. No one on the planet was strong enough to take him 1v1 unless the Tahm heavily misplayed, which is kind of hard to do with this kind of moveset. But fortunately for his opponent, since all he can do is just slap you around with his tongue, an overwhelming majority of top laners could just outscale him or outperform him in teamfights. That doesn't change the fact that for 20 minutes you just have to sit there and take the L. In bot lane, and by extension throughout the mid to late game, the presence of Tahm's W and E made assassins, divers, and engage supports unable to comfortably engage on their opponent, as he could just press W on his AD carry or mid laner and run away or stall for time with his indomitable resilience while his teammates rotated. Furthermore, with this 2-for-1 semi-global teleport, advancing forward without knowing exactly where he is was a death sentence, so his entire existence was essentially to not let you play the game. He was right up there with Shaco in terms of being an anti-carry. The goal of his gameplay update in mid-season 11 was to give him more personal agency at the expense of less suppression, and they tried to do that by swapping his W and ultimate, which aimed to accomplish 2 things. 1. Give him actual playmaking and engage potential instead of just walking up to people and licking them, and 2. Reduce the game-altering impact of Devour by making it an ultimate and therefore a commitment to use. This greatly increased the solo lane pressure as a result, with his Q now applying a passive stack to champions, gaining more range based on his size, and healing him whenever striking an enemy champion. Abyssal Dive also gave him a serviceable gap closer or extender, and now you don't have to worry about losing half your HP just by trying to attack him since Devour was moved to his ultimate, which, can I say for the record, is extremely funny that his old W, which had a 10-second cooldown at rank 5, could do potentially more damage than his current ultimate, which has a 2-minute cooldown at rank 1 and 80-second cooldown at rank 3. In any case, this was obviously aimed at diminishing the defensive aspects of Tahm's support for the sake of pro play and granting more viability in solo queue. Here's the thing though, nothing changed. He's still an extremely oppressive lane bully as he used to be, if not more so now thanks to having more solo pressure, and though he can't use Devour as often as he used to before, it still works like it used to, saving a person by taking them out of a fight or nuking someone for a ton of damage. Tahm Kench is still just as annoying and frankly useless as before. His presence in pro play has gone down, which was their main goal, but in solo queue, it's the same thing. For 20 minutes, you can't do anything in lane against him, and in the mid game, all he can really do is save a teammate and be a giant ball of health. People don't hate him as much as Shaco in light of you being able to play around him more, but historically he's been one of the most unfun champions to play against, and sometimes with, because he can feel so useless to his team. Tahm Kench has never been a positive thing for the game in the 8+ years he's been out for. Never once has he been regarded in a favorable light, and never once will he ever, because the whole point of his gameplay is to discourage interaction. Whether it's a solo laner, jungler, or support, the best way to beat him is to not fight him directly. I don't think there's a single other champion in this game who can make others feel useless while simultaneously feeling useless himself. Could they fix him to be fun and healthy? No. The very premise of Devour is what skews his gameplay. Doesn't matter if they give him an entirely new passive and abilities. So long as he has Devour, he will not be good for the game. People have been begging for Stopwatch to be taken out of the game ever since it was introduced. Devour is Stopwatch on a champion, and unlike Bard, you can be picky about who you want to use it on. Like I said, Tahm Kench cheats. I think you guys get the point by now. That wraps up everything I want to say about him. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with my points. Aside from that though, if you enjoyed the video, I encourage you to leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my Why Everyone Hates Shaco video if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.